Good afternoon and welcome to the news on CMS TV Online. I'm Claire Taylor and here are some of today's main headlines. Over the weekend, a shopping centre in Kenya came under siege by the Somali Al-Shabaab militant group. All activities by the Muslim Brotherhood have been banned following a court ruling in Cairo, Egypt. And recent survey results show the world's second biggest economy is finally improving after a prolonged period of economic slowdown. And now for some of the world news. At least 62 people have been killed and more than 175 injured in an attack by militants in a shopping centre in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. On Saturday morning, a group of people dressed all in black arrived at the Westgate shopping centre, armed with assault weapons. At the time, the store was packed with shoppers, including a group of 50 preschool children who were taking part in a cooking competition on the second floor. The group of militants killed some people outside the building before descending upon the shopping centre, firing shots and throwing grenades. Some managed to escape and chaotic scenes, while others were held hostage in the supermarket by the militants. Suspicion for the attack was pointed at the Somali Al-Shabaab militant group, which has threatened Kenya before for sending troops to Somalia. Their exact number is not clear, but estimates describe between 10 and 16. Some witnesses say they were masked, others describe them as wearing bandanas or with scarves around their faces. The gunmen ordered all Muslims to leave the mall. They were told they would be safe and only non-Muslims would be targeted. About an hour into the siege, the Kenyan security forces entered the building. They moved through the mall, checking each business for people hiding and searching for the gunmen. Shopping trolleys were reportedly used by security guards to wheel out several of the wounded, including children. Shortly following the arrival of the Kenyan police, the special forces and army soldiers had also arrived at the shopping centre to join the police operation. By midday on Sunday, 24 hours after the siege began, about 1,000 people had been rescued and 59 people killed. Reports claim between 10 and 15 militants remained barricaded in the mall. After it was announced that almost all the hostages had been evacuated and 2 of the militants killed and several injured, an assault was launched by the Kenyan security forces on the shopping mall. Current figures show that 62 people have died during the siege, but the security forces were now in control of every floor of the shopping centre. In other news, a court in Egypt has banned all activities by the Muslim Brotherhood. The Cairo Court for Urgent Matters has said the ruling applied to Islamist movement, its non-governmental organisation and any affiliated groups. An order has also been made for the interim government to seize the Brotherhood's funds and form a panel to administer its frozen assets until any appeal has been heard. Since the ousting of President Mohamed Morsi on the 3rd of July, the military authorities have launched a crackdown on the group, and dozens of senior figures, including its general guide, Mohamed Badi, have been detained on suspicion of inciting violence and murder. Hundreds of people demanding Mr. Morsi's reinstatement, most of them Brotherhood members, have also been killed in clashes with security forces, who portray the crackdown as a struggle against terrorism. That's all for the world news. Join us after the break for the latest UK and business stories.
I love London. There's loads to see and plenty to do. You can go shopping, enjoy art, go to the theatre, or just grab a bite to eat. Plus, it's a great place to study in the open spaces, all with excellent transport links. But where do you stay to enjoy all of this? Well, I stay at the Stay Club. The Stay Club is really fun. Cheers. It's close to central London. Thanks. And you can stay as long as you like. It's a great place to meet new friends. Do you mind if I take one of those? Good. Let me show you upstairs. The stay club is super safe and extremely clean. I mean extremely clean. So who stays at the stay club? Well, students, young professionals, handsome, and people who come from all over the world just to have a good time. Hey girls! Now let me show you my room. This is my room. And my flatmate April. In here we have our own shower, our own cooking space, free Wi-Fi, a large desk and the beds. I love the beds. As you can see, it's quite cosy in here. Oh, that'll be my friends. Now I gotta go, but you guys should definitely stay.
Welcome back, and now for some UK and business news. The serial sex attacker Carl Clay has been jailed for life following a string of violent assaults on women and children. The 39-year-old from Wood End, Coventry, raped 2 children and attempted to suffocate and drown 2 women. In July, Clay was found guilty of 13 charges, including raping children and attacking and threatening children and adults, over a 16-year period from 1991. These include indecent assault of a child, causing a child to engage in sexual activity, harassment and activity bodily harm. Police are convinced that there were more victims of Clay who had not yet come forward and are asking them to do so. Carl Clay will serve at least 15 years before becoming eligible to be considered for parole. Ed Balls, the Shadow Chancellor, is to propose extending free childcare from 15 to 25 hours a week, saying he can fund the measure by raising the bank levy. His offer will be made available to working parents of 3 to 4-year-olds. To qualify for the scheme, you would have to be a single parent or in a household where both parents are in work. The move is separate to Labour's pledge at the start of its autumn conference in Brighton to provide wraparound care through schools to help ease the childcare burden for families. No money was set aside by Labour for its wraparound offer. Balls will make the childcare offer in his speech to the party conference in Brighton on Monday, in which he will call for iron discipline on spending. Balls will try to bolster Labour's economic credibility by asking the government spending watchdog to audit all of its tax and spending commitments before the next election. Greece has aired their worries over the re-election of Angela Merkel as the German Chancellor in Sunday's election. Mrs Merkel has been seen as the figure behind austerity measures imposed on Greece after its 2010 bailout, with Greeks blaming austerity measures for an unemployment rate that has risen to almost 28%. Reaction on the financial markets has been restrained, and investors wait to see what sort of coalition emerges. Some Greeks have said that Chancellor Merkel hopes to invite Peer Steinbrück of the Social Democrats into a coalition. Steinbrück has criticised austerity and called for more growth measures to help this debt-stricken economy. The Greek government says the country cannot take any more austerity and needs debt relief by lowering interest rates or extending the repayment period of its loans. Recent survey results are showing that the world's second biggest economy is recovering from a prolonged economic slowdown. China's manufacturing activity increased to a 6-month high in September. The preliminary version of HSBC's Purchasing Managers Index climbed to a score of 51.2 from 50.1 in August. Numbers above 50 indicate an expansion in activity. The survey is another encouraging sign for China's leaders as they try to reverse a slowdown in which growth has fallen to a 2-decade low of 7.5% in the latest quarter. The latest PMI results added to other recent indicators including improved trade, factory output and car sales suggest the slowdown is levelling out. Surveys found output, new orders and work backlogs all increased at a faster rate during the month. New export orders also rose. The upbeat report on the country's manufacturing industry gives the government further breathing room as it tries to shift focus from reviving the economy to longer-term structural reforms that analysts say are needed to remain robust growth. China's leaders responded to the unexpectedly sharp slowdown earlier this year with targeted measures such as higher spending on railway construction and tax cuts for businesses. But they have resisted appeals for more broad-based stimulus as they try to nurture more self-sustaining growth driven by domestic consumption rather than trade and investment. That's all for the UK and business news. Join us next for the latest sports and entertainment stories. The Football Association believes Istanbul is a front-runner to host the semi-finals and final of the Euro 2020 Cup. The FA wants to stage those games at Wembley, but General Secretary Alex Horne says Istanbul is the favourite after missing out on the 2020 Olympics. There's sympathy for Turkey, which is leading to them becoming the front-runners. UEFA will stage the 2020 event across 13 cities and says 32 countries have expressed an interest in hosting the Games. The final bid dossiers have to be submitted to European football's governing body by the 25th of April next year, with a decision due on the 25th of September. UEFA President Michael Platini has previously said he would back Turkey for Euro 2020 if Istanbul's Olympic bid was unsuccessful, and with Istanbul eventually losing out to Tokyo in the race to host the 2020 Games, they look increasingly likely to play host to the Cup. Andy Murray is recovering in hospital after a back surgery to sort out a disc problem in his lower back. The British number one tweeted a picture of himself in hospital with thumbs up after minor surgery on his troublesome back. Murray is unlikely to play again this season, but hopes to begin his pre-season training in Miami in November. The injuries forced him to pull out of the French Open in May, although he recovered in time to become Britain's first male Wimbledon singles champion since 1936. His defence of the US Open was ended in the quarter-finals, but he helped Great Britain beat Croatia in the Davis Cup before having the surgery. He is set to miss this year's remaining tour events, including November's World Tour finals in London. Eurovision organisers have announced changes to the song contest's jury rules amid allegations of bribery. From next year, the names of each country's jury will be revealed ahead of the competition, in an effort to increase openness and accountability. For the first time, individual juror scores will also be published immediately after the final. The changes come after it was alleged votes had been bought for the Azeri contestant at this year's contest. Previously, the identity of jury members, whose votes account for 50% of the points each country awards competitors, was not disclosed until after the final. To increase diversity, music industry professionals can now only take a seat in the jury if they've not participated during the previous two editions of the contest. And now for a look at the weather. Early fog in the south will clear, with some warm sunny spells following. Some brighter spells likely elsewhere, but otherwise staying cloudy and cooler, mainly in the northeast. The odd spot of rain is possible as well, but mostly over in northeast Scotland. There will be further outbreaks of rain on Thursday and Friday, mainly over the southern half of Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. The far north of Scotland will become drier, brighter and colder. There will still be a lot of dry, warm weather over much of Wales and the southern half of England, with an increasing chance of showers breaking out. Into the weekend, the remnants of the high pressure will finally move away and low pressure will bring changeable weather to all areas. It will be colder in the north, but still on the warm side in the south. That's all for the news today on CMS TV Online. Join us next time. Goodbye.